What is up, gang? Today is day 14 of PR Press Record 30. And today I want to talk about the philosophy of art and beauty. Something I've noticed over the last 2, 3 years specifically is that my favorite artists can be described as something like Neoplatonic. When I say Neoplatonic, what I mean is something like they use their art as a vehicle to offer windows or touch or grasp at something like the ideal form of beauty. There's a essay by this guy, Roger Scruton. He passed away last year, I think it was. He was a philosophy professor, but he wrote an essay called Effing the Ineffable. And in that essay, he sort of talks about art, true art, music, paintings, writing, as being trying to F the ineffable. And then what that means is trying to give words and describe experiences that are beyond words. But the best we can do is make good art that gestures at something higher, something greater than reason alone. There's something beyond our senses, beyond our ability, our logic, something that moves us, that stirs us. And that something is, we do that by making beautiful things, as a gesturing at something greater than us, at the ideals, at Plato's realm of the forms. And that's what I mean when I say my favorite artists are Neoplatonic. So examples I can give here, for me personally, my own personal muses are Jon Bellion, who's a musical artist, and then Michelangelo. Those are probably my two biggest artistic inspirations. Michelangelo he's a good example for somebody that's sort of aware of his Neoplatonist tendencies, and he did admit that was sort of what he was after. It's one of the things he's noted as saying is that when he would carve, all he was trying to do was remove the angel or the sculpture from the uncarved block of marble. That there was a form that already existed inside the uncarved block, and his only job was to see, to try to understand what that form, that pre-existing form was, and then carve away everything around it, everything that wasn't necessary, that was less than the ideal. And I think in a lot of ways, when we think about identity and growth and what we're after in our lives in general, I sort of view life as a similar project. We come into life as something like an uncarved block. There's a quote by this, I think Alexis Carrel is the guy's name, and it says, man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the sculptor and the marble. And I think that's right. I think that's true. So I think Michelangelo's approach when he was sculpting is something like what needs to be our approach in life. And so in a certain way, his art is a representation of how to strive for excellence in life also. So in that way, his art is something like an intimation of the divine, of the beauty. It points us in the right direction. When he was trying to give, whether Statue of David or the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel or the Last Judgment, what he was trying to devote his life to was bringing heaven to earth through his art. He was trying to offer a window. So in Effing the Ineffable, I just want to read a little bit of it. Part of what Scruton's essay talks about is there's dangers in trying to F the ineffable and trying to give words to things that are beyond experience, because in some way it reduces what true art is, what it's trying to do. By reducing it to words and trying to explain it with words like I'm doing right now, if that's not tempered with an understanding that there is a value to it beyond that which is capable of being described by words, if it's not tempered with that understanding, there's a danger in attempting to reduce beautiful things to mere logic chopping. But here's my favorite paragraph from that essay. There's nothing wrong with referring at this point to the ineffable. The mistake is to describe it. Yankelevich, I don't know if that's his name, Yankelevich is right about music. He's right that something can be meaningful, even though its meaning eludes all attempts to put it into words. Fauré's F-sharp ballade is an example. So is the smile on the face of the Mona Lisa. So is the evening sunlight on the hill behind my house. Wordsworth would describe such experiences as intimations, which is fair enough provided that you don't add, as he did, further and better particulars. Anybody who goes through life with open mind and open heart will encounter these moments of revelation, moments that are saturated with meaning, but whose meaning cannot be put into words. These moments are precious to us. And then this is my favorite sentence. When they occur, it is as though on the winding, ill-lit stairway of our life, we suddenly come across a window through which we can catch sight of another and brighter world, a world to which we belong, but which we cannot enter. I think the more and more I think about this and the definition of capital B beauty and how that's distinguished from mere sort of aesthetic beauty, my definition of beauty is something that offers a window into the transcendent. Anything that offers a window into the transcendent is beautiful. This is why we can look at something that's aesthetically terrifying, like the crucifixion of Christ and all of its blood and horror, and say that it is the most beautiful thing of all time, because it offers a window into this transcendent salvation. That is the story. That is the story of what Christ's crucifixion is talking about. And so whenever I refer to this idea of capital B beauty, it is a window into the transcendent. The three transcendentals are truth, beauty, and goodness. And of the three, beauty is the one that Dostoevsky said will save the world. And the reason he said it will save the world is because truth and goodness seems to be, especially in today's day and age, more debatable. But beauty is something you cannot deny you cannot deny it with logic. It is an experience, is a felt experience that moves you. In the face of beauty, if you are tempted to deny meaning in existence, you are forced to doubt that stance about life when you soak yourself in the presence of beauty. Beauty points you back to the transcendent in general. It points you back to a life full of meaning. The artists, when they are trying to do something beautiful, fundamentally they are making something beautiful because they find meaning in the making of these beautiful things. And as they make these beautiful things, other people are also pointed to make beautiful things. They're pointed towards the idea of beauty, which is pointing towards the idea of meaning. You know, Albert Camus and some of the sort of like mid-20th century atheists, nihilists, absurdists, whatever you want to call them, taking the stance that there is no such thing as meaning except for the meaning that we create. I would argue that that's wrong. I would argue that we don't create meaning, we discover it. When we do a task that gives our life meaning, that is a discovery of meaning itself, of the form of meaning, the idea of meaning. It supposes and identifies that something like meaning exists. We don't create it, we discover it. And when we discover it, that is, everybody has this invitation through their art, through some chosen vehicle to discover meaning. Because meaning is a real thing to be discovered with our art and craft. For me personally, I come back to this idea. I think about Michelangelo and I think about Jon Bellion. I think about their projects. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do with my writing, is it's how do I write about, and I know that there's also a recognition that in choosing writing as my specific medium, there are walls that I can only gesture outside of. There's a net of words that I can't reach with, but I can use metaphors and analogies to gesture in that direction. And I can also combine my words and my storytelling with visuals and with music in a way that captures the transcendent more capably than just my words could do. But this project in general, and what I take so much inspiration from Jon Bellion and Michelangelo, is because they've effectively dedicated they dedicate and have dedicated their lives to this idea of how beautiful can I make this art, with the intention of trying as much as possible to bring a little bit more of heaven to earth, to let a little bit of the eternal light from that other world shine into this one. That I think is the job and role of the artist, um, and that is the role I am dedicated to and devoted to, kind of spending the rest of my life trying to do as good as possible. Um, and I hope and pray that I might help some of you, inspire you to do the same. I think that's enough for today's video. I just wanted to come on here and talk about some of my favorite artistic inspirations and the value I find in art and in seeking beauty. I think, like Dostoevsky said, beauty will save the world. Peace.